Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Lexby webinar series on best practices in e-discovery. Today's session is focused on helping the boutique law firm with limited resources master the document-intensive case. Before I introduce today's presenter, I have a few housekeeping rules and information on Lexby webinars. Our webinars take place monthly and are focused on equipping you with best practices on a variety of e-discovery topics. Please contact us at webinars@lexby.com if you have any technical issues or questions. Lexby webinars are available for viewing via streaming video as well as downloadable as a PDF presentation or an MP3 podcast. You'll find an entire library of previous webinars at lexby.com. They are available on demand. To be notified of future Lexby webinars, email us at webinars@lexby.com or follow us on LinkedIn. For those of you that are not familiar with Lexby, we're an e-discovery software and services provider based in Austin, Texas. Our focus is on serving boutique firms and organizations that require lightning-fast processing and have a desire for maintaining control of the e-discovery process in DIY environments. We provide the industry's fastest cloud-based e-discovery processing and document review software. All you need is a web browser to access the Lexby platform. This can be done from a PC, Mac, iPhone, iPad, or Android device. We also have ASED certified specialists and expert consultants standing by to help on a moment's notice. Today's session is fascinating for several reasons. The first of which is that if you're working in a boutique firm, it's not a matter of if you're going to encounter a document-intensive case, but rather when. The massive growth of electronically stored information, as shown on this chart, is only accelerating. In September, Twitter doubled their character limit. Shortly thereafter, Apple launched their new iPhones and operating system with their new file system that enables collaboration across devices. These are just small examples that scratch the surface of how dynamic the ESI landscape is. Now on to our presenter. Gene Albert is the CEO of Lexby and a sought-after speaker and author on the topics of e-discovery and legal technology. He is on the planning committee for the e-discovery Institute of the State Bar of Texas, and he is an expert consultant on e-discovery. Gene received his JD from SMU and his MBA from UT. Before I hand it over to Gene, I've got a couple of polling questions to help set the stage. And the first question is, how many document-intensive cases do you handle annually? And while you're answering that, I'll go ahead and take this time to thank you for participating in our polling questions. And our next polling question, how do you currently handle e-discovery? Do you outsource it? Do you keep it in-house? Are you outsourcing it but prefer to keep it in-house, or other? Okay, we have a few more answers coming in. All right, I'll go ahead and close that poll. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Gene Albert. Gene?
Great, thank you everybody for attending. I'm happy to talk on this subject. This is an area of great interest for me, and I think a really exciting area. In my time as a lawyer and then with Lexby, I've noticed the shift of complex cases into smaller firms, and attorneys doing complex work into smaller firms way more than there used to be years ago. A number of technological and maybe societal issues that have led legal services to go that way, and things continue to change. So it is an interesting phenomenon to be part of. In the discussion today, I want to go over boutique law firms, the growth, how e-discovery works with, and the challenges to a boutique firm, technology usage and how that can support boutique firms, staffing in-houses versus outsourced from the law firm perspective, and technology as an enabler, and then going through some of the features by case stage, and then finally some summary takeaways. As you can see already, I can talk pretty fast, and we have a lot of materials, so I'm not going to be able to cover everything that's in this deck. we can, the deck's going to be available. If you have any questions later, feel free to contact us. Another thing of just generally is as we go through, we try to keep these things very educational. So when I'm talking about general trends in law firms and e-discovery software, I have our software is sometimes the screenshots as illustrations, but we're talking about functionality of software in general. That's in the industry, at least among leading providers. The next slide I have here is boutique law firms in the headlines and from above the law, and you see headlines all the time where litigators in large firms doing complex work are leaving to go into launch a boutique or join a boutique, or the boutiques are fighting against the big law firms, and that makes good news, and certainly there is a lot of that happening where lawyers will go out of big firms into small firms, and then sometimes they'll merge back into large law firms. Kind of begging the question there, it's what is a boutique law firm? The term's thrown around a lot, and it's a popular term with lawyers doing complex work in smaller firms. As usual, as lawyers involved, this is a matter of debate and difference of opinion. From my perspective, this usually means that somebody in a niche area of law in their practice, relatively small, although relatively can mean different things to different people. And there are some firms that have hundreds of attorneys, and they consider themselves boutique law firms, along with the very small ones, and they consider, and there it's considered probably more specialized and a limited practice area. I think that with all of these ones, the practice areas are sophisticated. We tend to see ones such as I have listed here: class action, IP, securities, employment, construction, environmental. Ones that end up having complex legal issues and certainly complex documents. At the end of the day, though, I think this is really a lifestyle choice. It's an attorney who wants to do complex work, but not be in a big organization environment. They want to be on their own. And that's really the boutique law practice dream, I think, is really driving this. There was an article that's referenced there that why do attorneys leave for boutique practices, and they have the hope of better service for their clients, control of how cases are managed. They want to make their own decisions. They want to sometimes handle all aspects of a case. Sometimes in larger firm environments, attorneys may feel pressured to make use of the high associate leverage and move aspects of the case out to other people that they would really just handle themselves. I think they could do a better job. Increased flexibility. In some firms, there may be limitations or perceived limitations on the type of clients one can bring in, and worries about conflicts and things such as that. And there's certainly the motivation there, the thought that one can make more and more money on their own. So I think all of those are things that come back when attorneys are surveyed about the boutique law phenomena. Once one decides to be a boutique firm, then their question is, how do you go about being able to handle and provide complex legal services? Well, the boutique lawyers say they want to be lean and mean. What does that mean? Well, one is it's infrastructure. They don't want the large law firm infrastructure. They don't want all the internal staff there all the time, whether they need it or not. There's having a lot of in-house hardware and software can be expensive, both to buy, license, and then maintain. Certainly if it's got a large capacity. And then there's questions of how one handles large documents reviews, as law firms may have many associates, contract attorneys, or paralegals that can do document reviews. And one may not have that in a small firm. What is driving the challenge of the large document sets? Well, we've certainly since computers started becoming common, we've seen the amount of electronically stored information or documents that are in a typical commercial case just balloon, and it keeps happening year after year. There's more and more data. Lots of different ways of showing the stats on that. On that bottom point, I think that's interesting that since 1997, the average time to take a complaint that goes to trial in federal court has extended from up to 26 months. And that's a long time. And a number of things have been done in court management to make sure that that 26 months probably wasn't 200 months, because there's so much more documents to go through things. So the amount of documents that need to be parsed and looked at to understand the evidence of a case has and continued to be a challenge to one's legal practice and to practice law generally. And then as part of this, the amount and types of ESI has grown. That drives that we just have more and more different types of data. More recently, social media and other types, and text messaging and stuff that has been some of the most important evidence in some cases, along with email and all the traditional documents. There's a lot of advantage of having one's e-discovery software and staff to be on demand when you're a boutique law firm. One isn't in the position operating a boutique law firm to have the breadth and depth of support, hardware, software, and staff that one can have in a large firm. So what many boutique firms do is they go to OnDemand Software in the e-discovery arena, if not in some other areas. There are many names for this. It's these come and go. Certainly cloud has been very popular. Web software as a service, ASP, application service provider, was an older one. What do you get with that as a small firm, a boutique firm? Well, one is that you get the latest generation tools without the capital and personnel investment to keep that up to date. These are usually web-based. One can work for anywhere. One's staff can be at home or traveling or in different offices. There's usually not an ongoing hardware setup costs. Other things mentioned there, they tend to be more scalable than what one could do internally. There's cost issues too. We hear from many attorneys that it may be more easy to pass on costs to a client of software that one's bought on demand than if it's a capital investment, and that certainly makes sense. And there's also a possibility of your on-demand software costs for e-discovery being recoverable. That depends in different jurisdictions and a number of different factors that drive whether that is true or not. But there's a greater ability to do that, perhaps in some circumstances, with having it on demand than if one has internal hardware, software, and staff. Staff is another part of this. The modern generations of e-discovery software and ours, we try to make it as do-it-yourself as possible. And the boutique law firms want to do this themselves, and they want to use their internal staff to run the software. The software is designed for that. That said, it still takes personnel and expertise to be able to do this. And the modern model is that there's on-demand software, but also on-demand staff as well. This can be in several different ways. It can be, for the e-discovery vendor, it can be professional services and technical services staff who are available to help when an attorney's staff is unavailable or it's beyond the technical expertise for whatever's involved with that. This can also move into staff for managed reviews and such when that's done as well. Wanted to jump to a short case study, and this was an interview from an attorney that was in Above the Law again, and he was talked about using technology to level the playing field from small firms to boutique firms with large firms, and I think he had a number of interesting points to make here. Was a practicing lawyer, small firm doing complex construction work. He points out here that it levels the playing field it makes the point that it can handle several complex cases at a time, where in the past it might not be able to handle any or maybe one, and that allows him to have more cases that have the potential upside for being money makers for his practice. The technology will allow him to view documents quicker. There's a number of workflows that we'll talk about a little bit later that where it's technology assisted in various ways to allow quicker document reviews, where in the past it would all be done linear, manual, and there were only so many documents that could be reviewed by people, and just took too much time and too much money. On-demand software like Lexby can be accessed on a case-by-case basis as needed. He makes a point that fewer associates are needed, that you don't have to have that big leverage in the law firm ready for the big case, that you can do things more with the software and less with permanent staff, and that just felt it was more competitive and level the playing field with other larger firms that have these capacities in-house. So technology, can be an enhancer to one's practice and assist in taking on the larger cases. From here, I want to jump in, just running through case stages a little bit and talk about the sort of things that one needs to have in e-discovery software, both on the soft and from the services aspects of it. I'll run through this fairly quickly to stay within our time. And you can look at this in more detail later if there are points of interest. In the planning stage, it's important to collection to understand your ESI, where your custodians are, and to map data sources and to collect it, and to do quality control and QC of your collections. So your e-discovery software can help with custodian and ESI tracking and searching. Number of pivot tables and analysis can be done of the type of data that's been involved and from whom, that can help show if how much data is coming in and how big the case is going to be, and what one has at the beginning of the case. Very important. Here's a screenshot showing identification of the custodians. We sometimes call that case participants, or the cast of characters of who's involved and who has data in a case. Very important to map all that out on the front end and understand the initial case issues that might come from the client interviews and the complaint and answer, and to map that back to the key issues of the case and to the data that's coming in the case that's discoverable. One way to do that is in what's known as an ESI Content Map, where you take all the data associated that with your custodians and find out how much it is it being updated, what type is it, so you get an early peek or look at how much data is coming into the case and how much will need to be made discoverable and reviewed potentially. Next stage of the case is what we call calling and early case analysis. Calling is reducing down collected data to data that's potentially relevant or responsive, or more recently, the analysis is it proportional to make this available, review and make it available, and you want this to be quick, inexpensive, and defensible. The calling is done by using metadata from what's collected, and it can be by date, custodian, keywords. A number of processes that are used. One's called denisting, which is removing system and other files that based on a hash of electronic fingerprint that are unlikely to be responsive. Early case analysis goes by the acronym ECA. These are analyses that run. Deduplication removes exact duplicates of files, particularly emails, so that one doesn't have to review or deal with multiple copies of the same email or other files. And the e-discovery software is designed and can help with all those workflows. Another helpful part of that in early case analysis is just looking at what data is coming in and often pivoting that by custodian or by date. Often that will show there's been under collection. This can be done both when one is collecting one's own data from your client to make sure that everything's come in, but also on the other side, this can be analyzed and what's been received in a production. And often you can see some anomalous patterns in just the number of emails or the communications that makes one wonder if everything really has been found and been brought in, or if there's been a missing data store. So in this graph here, you can see, it's likely towards the end of it where the emails drop off to nothing and then they jump up, that probably something's been missed there on the collection. Processing is very important as part of this, that data coming in just raw or in its native format isn't very useful. So the e-discovery software and modern software like Lexby will process natives, and this involves extracting text from the natives, putting it into a database, extracting metadata, and fielding it into the database to allow for rapid filtering, search, and retrieval, doing optical character recognition on image-based files as needed, and then there will be some sort of a reviewable version of a file. We use an optimized searchable PDF that's very popular with our clients. Some other software providers will do image TIFF or PNG files, or sometimes an HTML file. And these us and others optimize these for for fast loading, processing, indexing, and review. It's important with our clients and is to be able to self-upload their own files, not need to go through a vendor. So this shows the interface of being able to drag and drop email PSTs or other native files or load files into the system, and being able to upload them and have them to be automatically processed. There are different types of file types that I mentioned before, and this slide shows the different types of files that can come in and what might be done with them and processing. Productions can also be brought in a similar format. They'll be produced by other systems, and they'll come in with what's known as a load file. It can be in different industries, standard formats, DAT, DII, XLSX, and the various issues that can come up on that. And then the goal here, and what we try to do, is to be able to take large productions and very quickly get them loaded fast, and make sure we've got good OCR to make them searchable, and make sure that they're indexed quickly for rapid review. There's usually not much time. A number of issues that come up when one's doing a document review to be able to do this fast and accurate. Search is very important. Ability to quickly and accurately identify responsive, privileged, and attorney's eyes only documents and tag those. Ability to be able to tag quickly, and to have different review methodologies. As part of this, one can near duplicate technology is very important, and then also other types of the technology-assisted review or predictive coding can be used as needed. Search is critical, being able to do this quickly. Here you can see an example of search coming back on a case and having a keyword highlighting and hit highlighting. And it's important as the documents get into millions of pages and millions of documents, sometimes that the search be able to be very, very fast and come back in a matter of seconds and not minutes or hours or days or time out, which if you don't have a well-optimized e-discovery software system can really make a search where it just doesn't even work. As part of optimizing documents for review, we work in a tabbed environment. One document comes in, but there's really different versions you want to see. We've got a hits highlighting page, the original native. We show extracted text. We'll have a PDF for viewing and downloading, an OCR version of the text. Then if you've produced the document, you want to see the produced version with date stamps. If there's a redacted version, translated version, annotated versions, typos. So we have this all in one record, and you're able to move through them in a tabbed environment. Mentioned we use a PDF version for our review version. That's very popular with our clients, and see some of the reasons there if of interest. Custom coding is very important, and it's important that an e-discovery system have a combination of built-in fields that allows for makes it immediately usable in an integrated workflow, but at the same time there would be lots of flexibility on issue coding and reviewer assignments, etc. So you see some examples of how that can be done, and it's done in our system. As I mentioned before, being able to do multi-tagging off of search or other filtering is just key, and that system needs to be optimized and designed to be able to do this in seconds and not really any longer than that. To allow somebody to rapidly move through a review of a large document case. There's a number of different document workflows that should be supported. One way is to set up review sets so you can load balance between reviewers, and then batch that out as the reviewers complete their review. And this can be done both with an attorney's own staff, and then if they go outside and get a managed review staff from a managed review company to come in and assist with document coding or review. And there's just some screenshots, some examples of how that looks. And as I mentioned, there's different methodologies that can be done just depending on the case and the importance and the time, and they can go from linear review to keyword search to technology assisted review. I don't think any one of those is always right or wrong. It just depends on the case size and what's needed to be done, and the goals of the specific review. Near duplicate detection is a great technology. We've got other webinars on that. Here's an example showing inconsistent coding of privileged documents, and there are lots of horror stories of important privileged information documents making it out where a review firm or firm reviewing may have caught 10 out of 11 copies of a privileged document and missed the 11th, and it only takes one to cause tremendous problems. Near duplication is a wonderful technology for showing those inconsistencies and allowing somebody to catch that before it goes out. Here's another view of how near duplicate detection can be used for email threading, and that's a wonderful technology for being able to take emails or other or text messages or other information that comes in and get like information together in a single email thread or a conversation thread and look at it in order. Production is also very important to be able to do that quickly. There's never enough time for that. Things take longer than one thing, so there's more time for review, so the production needs to be done very, very fast to meet pre-existing timelines. So there's the production throughput rate is critical, and a good e-discovery system should be optimized to be able to have just a credible throughput rate on that, and we certainly work on that ourselves here with scalable backend architecture. And there are different types of different production options. Different law firms will have different ways they review, so we have a blended production options of native PDF and TIFF as needed, and all the different load files that are on the market, and integrating QC. This can be done self-serve, or our staff can help with that. And here's an example of the sort of selects that one has when they set up a production to have that run, and then we have and various production validation tools that are built in to check for privilege and work product and other inconsistencies in them before production goes out. Also critical on that is privilege logs. Won't go into detail on that here, but metadata needs to be parsed out, and one wants the privilege log to be auto-generated off of the metadata to be able to handle the, sometimes very large privilege logs that are done. So you see some examples here of how the metadata is pulled out of a file and then parsed into fields and then makes it into a privilege log. Of course, things aren't done with the productions. Having all of the information seamlessly flow into depots and motion practice is key, and the workflow should support that as well. And that can be done with a dynamic fact and issue timelining, reports by deponent, date range, issue, and then transcript highlighting and management and annotation. Here's an example of a screenshot on timelines where facts can be parsed out of transcripts or other documents and then put in a timeline format. So by case participants, so one can see what is happening when in the case and where the disagreements of the fact witnesses and the evidence are. Related to that would be a transcript analysis, and systems should support the transcap highlighting and then an integration with that back into the facts and issues in the timelining tool in the platform. Here's another screenshot of fact analysis of showing how the facts in the case can be parsed to get ready for transcripts, trial, and also the depositive motion practice. For motion practice, it's important to make a determination of different facts that are alleged and which ones are contested, which ones are material for summary judgments, etc. And screenshot shows that this can be built into the tool. And then most importantly, linking back to the documents where if you have a question about the evidence, you can go back and easily pull up the actual document that is in question. Finally, for trial and appeal, most cases settle these days, but some do go to trial. You want to have a repository of all the documents easily at one's fingertips to pull up when at trial to make sure they can get to the evidence quickly. Also, the timelines need to be able to update it rapidly so that one can be able to quickly be able to cross-examine witnesses effectively. Let me just summarize some of the takeaways. Boutique law firms are ascending. They're handling larger and more complex cases. They want to be lean and mean, and they need robust technology for that. E-discovery software is a must, and the question is how one does that and whether it's internal or external, not if it's needed. Technology should leverage the attorney's term expertise and staff to be able to handle more and better complex cases. We believe that OnDemand Cloud is a great solution for the boutique firms. When choosing software, it's important to match the software and the provider firm with your specific workflow and other needs. The DIY, for both for the software and for your services are critical on being able to leverage your own staff to be able to handle cases as needed. And finally, the technology really is the great equalizer. I think with the changes in technology and the changes in the type of practices, the prospects are brighter for small and boutique firms being able to handle complex cases and having a great law practice are better now than they've ever been. And thank you. I apologize if we've gone over a little bit on this, but if anybody has any questions, please, I'd love to hear about them. And then we also have a short survey after the webinar, and we'd love to hear from you on that. We very much look to that for your suggestions on how we can make these educational webinars better.
Thanks, Gene. That was really insightful. I hope everyone enjoyed Gene's presentation. Before we wrap up, I'm going to discuss the challenges that boutique law firms face with large document cases and how Lexby solves these issues. Lexby was purpose-built to help boutique firms solve the issues of infrastructure, support, hardware and software, and review staff, and I'll briefly touch on each of these. In terms of infrastructure, as Gene mentioned, most boutique firms want to be lean and mean, and therefore not have to invest in the kind of IT required to run on-site e-discovery software. Something that is going to be able to support getting from a really large production, getting it processed, and getting reviews done so you can get ready for your depositions and motions. Lexby does exactly that. Residing at Amazon Web Services, Lexby has virtually unlimited capacity and can scale instantly to meet the exact needs of your case. So from 5 gigs to 50 terabytes, Lexby automatically deploys computing resources to get you to document review faster than any other platform. In addition, we have industry-leading physical and cybersecurity as demonstrated with the certifications listed on the screen. Lexby also fulfills the lean and mean mantra when it comes to computer hardware and software and the maintenance expense. You won't incur those costs with Lexby. With Lexby, there's no need to have an internal IT team or VAR come and install servers and software at your location. And you don't have to worry about keeping the system up to date with the latest patches and versions. Lexby is simply available to you and anyone on your team via web browser, and that can be on a PC, Mac, iPhone, iPad, or Android device. In addition, you'll find that Lexby is so simple to use that you don't need a large litigation support or IT department. For law firms that have internal litigation support personnel, Lexby is a force multiplier by enabling them to administer the cases and projects through a simple user interface. We also provide free weekly training and have a help desk ticket system that operates 24/7, enabling you to submit support tickets to our team. Lastly, Lexby's advanced technology, delivered through a very simple user interface, equips you with the ability to leverage speed as a competitive advantage. By getting to document review faster and by identifying the relevant documents faster, you're able to handle document-intensive cases by reducing the workload on your review staff. And when the occasion arises, we have an expert team of e-discovery professionals who are standing by to assist on a moment's notice. We're happy to help with anything from remote collections to keyword strategies to assisting with Rule 26F conferences and complex bait schemas. Before we wrap up, I've got one more polling question, and that is, would you like a demo of the Lexby e-discovery platform? While you're answering that, I'll let you know that this session will be available for webinar attendees via streaming video, an MP3 podcast, as well as a PDF. Also, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions whatsoever. You'll find our contact information on the slide. And lastly, watch your inboxes for an invite to our next webinar on e-discovery best practices. Thank you and have a great day.